Already very familiar with Santi's team, but what I think is really interesting about Ray's specifically is that we haven't seen a single Landorus this entire tournament, Aaron, and we see a Landorus on Ray's team.
Yeah, interestingly enough, despite Zacian being one of the most common picks throughout this tournament, none of our three remaining players actually had it. And just in general, Zacian was not a popular pick. I think it was just Naoto who had it on his team. And so Zacian is a very staple Pokemon. Ray's team here is basically just some of the strongest, Pokemon in the format, and then you support it with Zacian. So this is going to be an interesting one because once again, this Kyogre does have the Choice Scarf, right? So for this matchup for Ray, he's got multiple resists to the Kyogre in the Rillaboom and the Tapu Fini. You've got the Regieleki as well. I think for Santi, you're going to be looking for some speed control, get that Tailwind up with Tornadus because, Regieleki can actually outspeed Kyogre even with the Choice Scarf. And so I'm really looking at Regieleki and Rillaboom and the Zacian from Ray's end. You mentioned the Landorus Eye. It's a really cool Pokemon, but unfortunately, I feel like it doesn't have much of a place in this matchup specifically, given the number of Pokemon that just hit it for super effective damage. So I'm looking at Aleki, Rillaboom, and Zacian for Ray, and for Santi, it's about how do you position so that your Kyogre does not just get eliminated by the Rillaboom or the Regieleki.
I just thought it was a cool tidbit to know that there hasn't been a single Landorus other than the one that's on Ray's team. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna come.
If it comes out, I'll be very happy, Rose. I just think it's a little bit difficult for Landorus in this one, but maybe Ray will prove me wrong, and we'll see. But I'm so excited.
Well, then let's get into it, Aaron. Let's get into this exhibition matchup between Santino and Ray. Let's start off with game number one, see what is going to happen here. Regieleki and Zacian coming out for Ray, Rizzo, and we will see the Kyogre and the Weavile coming out from Santino. I feel like this is a great place for Ray to be in, just pressuring down both of these Pokemon with super effective attacks.
I know Ray's been in the retirement home for a while, but hey, Weavile was actually really relevant in the years he played VGC. Not super relevant, but you saw it a little bit in like 2010, for example. And so, yeah, the main thing that's always funny is, Ray just hasn't played the game in so long. I'm curious if he knows really the new mechanics and the new strats and whatnot. But either way, Santi bringing that trusty Weavile puts on Fake Out pressure immediately, and Ray not able to lead Fake Out here means that Santi has a very free turn one, right? Ray led with two Pokemon that are strong, but neither of these Pokemon actually resist water type damage as well. And so I think great lead by Santi. It feels so fitting too, right? Santi's Weavile has just been such a trusty Pokemon. I love the switch out on Ray's end because right now your Zacian is just really threatening. That's going to be Rillaboom coming in. That's going to change the terrain and really probably the best Pokemon on your team to actually switch into any water type damage.
Yeah, I think this is a really great Pokemon to switch in here, especially knowing that we also see a Protect coming out from Ray's team as well, just to make sure that Regieleki is not going to be doing too much with the Feint. Oh my gosh, the Feint comes out from the Weavile to break that Protect, so this Water Spout is going to be doing so much damage here. Even that Feint doing a little bit of damage, but I think that Water Spout alone would have been able to be enough to just knock out this Regieleki.
Oh, that was such a phenomenal play. I think, there's like a slight calculated risk there because you do have to be scared of Regieleki being max speed or even potentially Choice Scarf, as we've seen other Regielekis in this tournament. But Santi nails turn one. It's actually a really good play by Ray as well, right? If their Feint does not come out there and Rillaboom gets the free switch in, well, suddenly you have something that threatens Kyogre and you basically then pressure Santi to maybe switch out the Weavile into Serena. But that is the best possible way for Santi to start off this first game. And I think this Weavile is just so impressive. You get Tapu Fini out, that actually changes the terrain, so now Rillaboom can't go for those grassy glides, or I mean it still can, but it won't have the priority anymore. So I feel like it feels like Santi's in a really phenomenal position, right? You can actually even just go for a switch into that Serena, and there it is in the back, right? That blocks Fake Out, and then just triple Axle for the KO onto the Rillaboom. That's exactly what Santi's opting for. And yeah, Tapu Fini is kind of annoying. Actually, it's pretty good into a lot of Santi's Pokemon, but Serena obviously has that grass type damage into Tapu Fini. The other question I have is, what is the Fini set here? I would think maybe it's a Calm Mind set. But if you eliminate this Rillaboom, well, suddenly the Zacian just can't handle Kyogre very easily, and you're just in a really awkward position. So lights out turn one play by Santi, but it's not like Ray's play was poor by any means, right? He just got caught off guard by the Feint, as many players have been in this tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, the Feint is just such a surprise coming out from the Weavile, and we even saw it a little bit on a couple of other teams. But it's just because Wide Guard is such a prevalent move in this meta right now, and especially if you know you have Astral Barrage or you've got those water spouts, you want to make sure that those attacks are going off without a hitch. But because this arena is here, we are going to be able to see the triple axle come out from the Weavile, and that Rillaboom just going to go down here.
Let's see what Feeny said it is here. I'm curious if it's mine or just like a choice spec set.
Okay, just Moonblast from now. That doesn't really help tell us too much, I feel like, but it is going to be a knockout.
Exactly. The one thing that really doesn't give us any piece of information, but you know, it works out for Ray there. You do get a knockout. I think Santi, if anything, is probably decently happy with the lack of a Calm Mind there, right? It means that you can even do more damage. And now Kyogre just comes back in safely. You have that Water Spout that you can, you know, go for. So Ray's in a position where maybe you want to consider going for the Protect on Zacian. Zacian is also a Pokemon that does get access to Wild Charge, so Wild Charge here would actually be really interesting.
Yeah.
Ray does have a path to victory if you have Wild Charge, for example, or even if you crit like a close combat into Kyogre and Zacian survives a Water Spell, well, maybe Feeny can win the endgame for you then. So Santi's just playing very offensively right now. Makes sense. And so the big question here is, does Zacian protect? Do you have a surprise move like a Wild Charge? And also, what are the rest of the attacks on Tapu Fini?
Yeah, that's something that I'm super curious about, because Tapu Fini can be a couple of different things. It could be a screen set, it could be like we've seen Nature's Madness on a couple of them, or it can just be a typical Calm Mind set. So I think that's going to be a lot of information that Santino can take into game number 2 if Ray is willing to give up that information. I think that is the key to success here, but we'll see whether or not what Santino has locked into for this specific turn is going to work here. Ray taking a lot of time to really think through this, but of course with that Choice Scarf, that Kyogre is going to go first, does a ton of damage to that Zacian, doesn't do nearly as much to that Tapu Fini, but Substitute. But it doesn't have enough HP for the Substitute here. Grassy Glide gets to come out now, and of course it's not boosted by the grassy terrain, but it does put that Tapu Fini in range to be able to use its Citrus Berry here and gain a little bit of HP back. Nature's Madness, okay.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna bring Kyogre to exactly half health here.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ray, though, you know, Substitute is not the play you want to go for there. The Zacian was actually really close to potentially getting it up, but I wonder if Ray was maybe just not anticipating the Choice Scarf on the Kyogre. So the idea is that if you're not Choice Scarf Kyogre, that's actually a fantastic play, right? You get the Substitute, you don't take that much damage from the Water Spout. It's essentially just that 25% from the Substitute. And then Feeny actually has the Nature's Madness, so suddenly you decrease Kyogre's damage output significantly. So once again, it feels like Ray is making good plays. He's just getting caught off guard by the surprises on Santi's team, being the Feint from Weavile and the Choice Scarf on the Kyogre. That's a really critical turn now, because yeah, you can just launch another Water Spout here, and I think that should be enough to pick up the KO onto Zacian, as it looks like it is.
Yeah, that is going to be enough to be able to knock out the Zacian here, so it's kind of all down to this Tapu Fini, but I really don't think it's going to be enough here, especially because Arena can go for another Grassy Glide. And Santino, our grand champion of the 25th Invitational, is going to be able to take this very first game in this best of 3, 1-0. Ray can make a comeback here, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Ray got a lot of important information there, right? Like, now you should know that the Kyogre is Choice Scarf. I do think Ray brought by far his best 4 options in the 4 Pokemon. Like, I just don't think you have any room for Incineroar or Landorus Eye in this matchup. You know, going into this, we were talking about Rillaboom, Alecki, Zacian. So I think Ray has correctly identified the 4. So now I'm thinking, okay, what about the lead matchup, right? It felt like Santi had a significantly better lead with the Weavile and the Kyogre. So you're going to want to look to counter that Weavile plus the Kyogre. I guess my other question is, yeah, how fast the Regieleki is. We now have seen the Protect, so clearly it's not Choice Scarf, for example. But even then, is it max speed? Does it have the potential to outspeed the Kyogre on Santi's end here? Santi's Kyogre does appear, I think, to be max speed as well. So we'll have to see. But either way, I think Ray brought the right Pokemon. He got caught off guard by the feint. You have to lead properly. Like, this is what we kept saying about Santi's team. He plays the lead and turn 1 so well, where it's like, it often feels nearly impossible to come back from after just such a, you know, huge turn 1. So I think Ray's got to think a little bit twice about kind of how he's leading. You have to respect that fake out option. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see what he comes up with here going into game 2. But I do think the Pokemon he brought here is fine. You just, yeah, can't get hit by that Water Spout immediately.
Couple of questions that we want answers to, particularly who's going to win this match. Let's go ahead and jump into game number 2 and see what spice there is to be had. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting. We are going to see the Regieleki as well as the Tapu Fini come out here, and we have the Tornadus and the Urshifu.
I really like the Feeny lead, and I'll tell you why. You know, this is a Nature's Madness Feeny, so it's actually perfect into both the potential Weavile and the Kyogre combination. Now, Santi, once again, he is really the master of lead adjustments throughout this course of the tournament, makes yet another lead adjustment, goes for that Tornadus. Now is able to just set up Tailwind and Surging Strikes into Regieleki. That's actually a really safe play, so Ray might want to consider switching Regieleki out into Rillaboom if you have it in the back. Feeny is actually, I think, yeah, one of the main Pokemon in this matchup, especially because of that Nature's Madness. It's probably not going to be picking up KOs, but it's able to chunk away for 50% of damage onto Kyogre. That's really important because as soon as you get any chip damage onto it, well, then the Regieleki or the Rillaboom should be able to pick up the knockout onto it. So I think on turn 1 here, yeah, I mean, Ray hopefully knows about Urshifu's ability, and you know, you can stay in here with the Regieleki, but I think if you have that Rillaboom in the back, you can bring it out. It looks like Ray's actually willing to maybe just sacrifice the Regieleki, though, so that you get a free switch in into Rillaboom or Zacian.
For sure. We are going to see the Surging Strikes from Urshifu come out next here, and it is going to target right into that Regieleki. So lots of critical hits coming this Regieleki's way, and it's going to be plenty to be able to knock out this Regieleki. But as you mentioned, it does provide Ray a free switch into something that could be in the back there. Let's see what this Tapu Fini is going to go for. It's going to be Icy Wind. So even though the Tailwind is up here, now Urshifu and Tornadus are going to be a little bit slower.
Oh, that's actually such an interesting option in this matchup, right? Like, Icy Wind makes such a big deal because even with Tailwind up, if you just drop things down to, you know, drop their speed stats by just 1, like the Regieleki can actually outspeed practically everything. So unfortunately for Ray, the Regieleki is already out of the way, but Icy Wind actually I think is a really big deal in this matchup. So if we were to go to a game 3, I think that's something that's actually really, really handy for Ray, where it's like maybe you lead Rillaboom, Feeny, Icy Wind, and then use the Eleki later on for offense. Now, he has gotten the Icy Wind, he's gotten the speed drop, and you get Zacian in safely, right? So Zacian now pressuring with a lot of damage, but I think this Feeny is actually, the set specifically is really, really good into Santi's team. So I really like Ray's decision to lead it here. Yeah, just has to kind of sacrifice the Regieleki along the way, but you have that speed drop now, and we'll see if this Zacian is max speed and potentially able to outspeed either Tornadus or Urshifu with the speed drops. But yeah, I think the scary thing here for Ray is you can't necessarily protect with Zacian, right? Santi opting for that Rain Dance and Surging Strikes, very consistent into that Zacian slot. And so, is this Rillaboom? Oh, it is!
Oh, yeah, it is Rillaboom
that is
here.
Really smart play by Ray. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. That is so good here to be able to set up the grassy terrain as well, but also just to make sure that, you know, you're not going to be taking too much damage here. Rain Dance does come out from this Tornadus, though, which is going to help make sure that those Surging Strikes coming out from this Urshifu are going to be so much more effective. But that Rillaboom switch out there, that is absolutely huge. It's not going to take too much damage at all, even though those are going to be all critical hits.
Really smart decision there. The Rillaboom was in the back, so yeah, I am curious if, you know, the potential Regieleki into Rillaboom switch turn 1, like that could have put Ray in a really, really good spot. But Moonblast is confirmed on the Tapu Fini as well, and that's actually going to pick up the KO onto the Urshifu. We saw Moonblast in the last game, but it does enough damage to actually knock out the Urshifu. So the Fini set here is really helpful, right? Like, not all Finis run Nature's Madness and Icy Wind. Combination of both of those is actually really, really handy right now. So this is interesting. Santi's actually going to opt to bring in the Serena in first, and of course the grassy terrain was set up by Rillaboom, so you can go for Grassy Glide onto the Tapu Fini. So if you are Ray, what you can do is now just switch the Fini out into the Zacian. Rillaboom here can potentially go for example, a U-turn. If it's Assault Vested, maybe it can survive a Hurricane. If you're Ray, maybe you're actually willing to just stay in with the Tapu Fini because it might actually survive that Grassy Glide anyway, and then just play towards the Zacian. But the main thing for Santi is, like, both of the Pokemon on the field right now resist water type damage, so you just want to chip away a little bit slowly, maybe do enough damage where they're both in water spout KO range. And hey, both Serena and the Tornadus, two of the best Pokemon to have out to get that chunk of damage so that Kyogre can just come in and end the game with some water spouts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what Santino does so well, especially in this format. I feel like he's just been able to preserve those restricted so well, put them into wonderful positions, make sure that they are going to be getting that big damage off. But Zacian is going to now switch in here for that Rillaboom, and Serena going to go ahead and go for the U-turn here. It's going to deal not too much damage to that Zacian, obviously, because it's not super effective, but Santino now gets a chance to pivot and bring that Kyogre in. And with that Regieleki out of the way as well, this Kyogre is pretty safe, especially knowing that you'd have to switch in Rillaboom into some type of attack. And
It's
Hurricane
a really good
coming out
play by
here.
Raid there, though, to not actually switch to Feeny. Hurricane comes out, gets a critical hit there, and an Icy Wind is going to come out here. So I like Ray's play there a lot because I think, you know, a lot of players would be tempted. And I was talking about the play of switching the Tapu Fini out and then going into Zacian, but in the end, you know, you actually end up getting the Kyogre in, or the Zacian comes in relatively safely, and you get an Icy Wind speed drop. So Tornadus is now at -2, Kyogre is at -1 speed. So yeah, and you've conserved the Rillaboom still, which is pretty important. Now, there's still one more turn of Tailwind, right? And so Kyogre has that Choice Scarf and has the Tailwind. Is at -1 speed, but should still outspeed both Pokemon here. So Ray's probably going to look to try to stall out the Tailwind. You can go for something like Protect with Zacian and Nature's Madness onto Kyogre. That actually feels like a really consistent play. And if you connect with Nature's Madness, it actually puts you in a really good spot, I think, because this Zacian is looking to basically just clean up in the end game, right? If you make sure you're not going to get one shot by the Kyogre, well, Tornadus isn't really doing that much damage, and Zacian can just safely pick up KO after KO after KO. But I would think here Ray's going to want to contemplate protecting Zacian, going for a Nature's Madness onto the Kyogre.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that especially because, you know, this is a really good position, I feel like, for Santino to lock into Water Spout here. I think that's something that Ray could identify and just recognize, okay, well, Nature's Madness is going to lock you in with that Choice Scarf, and we can just go ahead and chunk away at your HP. So that Water Spout is not going to be doing nearly as much damage. The Hurricane, though, does go into the Tapu Fini, and that's just a decent amount of damage, but it is going to put Tapu Fini in range to be able to consume its Citrus Berry, and looks like, yeah. Oh, Light Screen. No Nature's Madness here.
Interesting.
Wow, what an interesting set on this Tapu Fini, Aaron.
Yeah, I think this Feeny set is actually perfect into Santi's team, right? Like, it's giving Ray a lot more room to work with. So Tailwind peters out now. Now, the downside is, Santi still has this Kyogre out, and it hasn't taken any damage. So I think Nature's Madness first into Light Screen the second turn might have been a little bit better, but of course, you do risk missing the potential Nature's Madness. If you miss, it feels like the game might just be over from there. So maybe Ray not wanting to take that chance of a miss and just get the guaranteed Light Screen up. And like you said, Rosemary, this is a really interesting Tapu Fini set. It's not your typical Calm Mind, Muddy Water, Moonblast Protect set. It's not your Choice Spec set, but it's perfect specifically into Santi's team, right? And yes, Santi has counters to the Fini and Rillaboom and Serena, but the rest of Ray's team is really good into Rillaboom and Serena, specifically the Zacian, right? So really interesting light screen reveal there.
I think that the Tapu Fini set as well is just really good against a lot of the key meta-restricted Pokemon. Like, not just Kyogre, but you're also thinking about the fact that, like, Shadow Rider Calyrex is really, really good right now. And so I definitely think that this was a great meta call from Ray to be able to bring a Tapu Fini set that was going to be good kind of no matter what he faced off against. But we do see the Behemoth Blade come out here. It is going to knock out this Tornadus, but not before it does get up the Tailwind. But Nature's Madness now, it misses! Oh my gosh, it misses.
Wow, that's such a critical miss because if you hit that, the Kyogre, like you called out earlier, Rosemary, is locked into Water Spout, and suddenly you're at a 50% Water Spout with the light screen being up. So then you probably don't even knock out the Zacian. But with that miss, this Water Spout now will do so much damage to Zacian. It might even be enough to pick up the KO onto it. So really, really unfortunate miss there for Ray. I think Ray's played this game really well, honestly. I love the way he switched in Zacian. I love the lead adjustment he made as well. He basically figured out, I think, most of the strategies coming up from Santi's end and made all the right adjustments. And I feel like if he hits that Nature's Madness, he is in a very commanding position in this game with light screen up. Part of the question is, can you actually do enough damage to still beat the Serena? But you should with the Zacian out on the field, right? Like a Behemoth Blade will still potentially just get the one-hit KO onto it. So now the question I have is whether or not Zacian can survive another Water Spout. Based off that last one, doesn't really look like that is the case. So let's see. It's gonna go for the Protect, and I like that to, just stall out a turn here. But we know that the Grassy Glide from Serena is going into Lafini, so there was actually an opportunity for Zacian to maybe attack there. But yeah, if you don't think you're gonna survive, then it makes sense. Like the best bet is hope for maybe a really low damage roll. Behemoth Blade, KO Serena. You did stall out Rain there, though, actually, so that makes a lot of sense as well. So now you get a little bit more room to work with Zacian.
Right, and because you don't have the ability to switch out the Kyogre anymore, and you can't get the Rain back, and also the Tornadus is down, so you also don't have Rain Dance to be able to help you out with those more powerful Water Spouts. But the fact that you were able to KO the Tapu Fini here, oh my gosh, and you also have to bring out the Rillaboom again to reset up the grassy terrain. that, I feel like, just puts Santi in such a good position for this game.
Yeah, the main thing I was wondering there is Ray could have maybe opted to switch out the Feeny. Like, the reason why, you don't want to attack there if you're staying in with Feeny is because then Water Spout becomes single target. So then it's like, maybe you have a slight chance of surviving, hope for like a low damage roll if you switch out into the Rillaboom. Glide goes into the Rillaboom's line, then maybe you just knock out the Serena in one shot. Then the Rillaboom on your end can handle the Kyogre. But Ray ends up going for the Protect. Does stall out the Rain, right? So that's pretty critical. Now the question is whether or not Glide plus Water Spout, for example, can do enough to KO the Zacian. But I think, Serena matches up really well into Rillaboom, specifically because of kind of its moveset with Triple Axel. I think that's one of the many reasons why Serena is an amazing meta call in addition to its ability right now. So Ray definitely in a tricky position. You can opt for a double protect. He doesn't go for it. Double protect makes sense if you have a strong grass type attack on the Rillaboom. But Zacian does critically survive here. That's really, really big.
Yeah, it is super, super big here. The Triple Axel is going to be able to come out, though, from this arena, and it looks like it's going to get all 3 hits to be able to knock out this Rillaboom. So now it's a very, very low Zacian against the world at the moment, and Zacian can go for this Behemoth Blade, which is going to be able to connect, but I feel like if it's not this arena here... Oh, it is this arena! It does. Oh, but it survives. Serena can just go ahead and use its berry here, this citrus berry, to gain up some HP. And then on the next turn, because that grassy terrain was set up by Ray's Rillaboom, Santino can just go for a grassy glide here.
Exactly. I think the play here was correct on Ray's end, where you hope to knock out Serena before it gets the Triple Axel off into Rillaboom, and then Rillaboom, should it have something like Woodhammer, can actually just one-shot the Kyogre. So this game was actually really, really close. I think there were like 2 small opportunities for Ray to make switch-ins in this game, right? Conserve the Tapu Fini, switch the Rillaboom in. Had he actually switched Rillaboom in, the terrain would have ended at just the right time where you don't set up that grassy terrain again. Either way, though, now you've got this Kyogre, hasn't taken any damage. Water Spout should just finish off the Zacian, but I think this was a really close game, and I think if that Nature's Madness hits the Kyogre, it's a lot more in Ray's favor. So I really, really, really wish we could have seen this gone 2-3 games. The Feeny set was really cool. A lot of key reveals here. Ray, once again, bringing all the right Pokemon, made a really good lead adjustment, but Santino having a little bit of good fortune there with that Nature's Madness miss. Ray, of course, had the opportunity to go for Nature's Madness first with the light screen, but either way, if you missed the you need to hit one of the Nature's Madnesses, right? The light screen first, like, gives you a little bit more bulk to work with. And so I think the 2 main things I'm thinking of in this game was Ray maybe could have switched Regieleki into Rillaboom on turn 1, especially with that Icy Wind support. Lucky then can outspeed a lot of things. And then the second was the Feeny switching out into Rillaboom when the Glide came out there rather than just sacrificing it. But Behemoth Blade is going to come out, is going to knock out the Serena, but at this point, Kyogre is going to finish off the game.
Yeah, wow, what an exciting exhibition match between Santino, Tarquinio, and Rizzo. Santino taking down a 3-time world champion to not only, get this exhibition match, but also Santino has 2 Winter Players Cup wins under their belt.